Hello, my angels. It's me, Lord Nicolina, and welcome to the first episode of 2023 and the 1-year anniversary special of Angel Rise. You heard it right, everyone. It's been officially 1 year since Angel Rise begun. And boy, it's been a hell of a ride so far. I've made 28 of these episodes so far. And this, of course, is episode 29. And the next episode will be episode 30. Holy, I can't believe I'm almost at 30 episodes now. Anyways, for those of you who have supported me through this journey so far, I would like to thank you all as always, no matter how big or small the support is. And before this episode officially begins, I have a big announcement to make. This was briefly recognized in episode 20, but it's a reality now. I will be doing my first ever collaboration episode for Angel Rise sometime in the near future. Yes, you heard that right. In the near future, the first ever collaboration episode of Angel Rise will happen. Who I'll be doing it with has been decided, but it's going to be a surprise. So stay tuned, everybody. And with that being said, let's kick off the first Angel Rise episode of 2023, as well as the 1-year anniversary special. Since this is the 1-year anniversary special of Angel Rise, I thought I would look back and share 5 of my favorite episodes that I've made so far. Keep in mind, for those who haven't watched them, and to those who are new to the channel, there will be spoilers. So I highly suggest you go and watch each episode before you watch this one. I'll link the playlist and each episode I share on the screen as we go along. Anyways, let's get into it. Number 1, Episode 2, A Different Ability. This is the first full episode of Angel Rise that I created. It was released back on January 13th, 2022, 10 days after episode 1. In the episode, I talk about my autism and how it's been managed. The big things I share in that episode is when I was diagnosed, my behaviors, and the autism programs I was a part of for a place called Lansdowne Children's Center, which helps kids who have physical and intellectual disabilities. Notable behaviors I exhibited included using a somewhat loud voice whenever I wanted to say something, getting overwhelmed when someone did or said something I didn't like, and sensitivity to excessive noise, especially at school. As for the programs I was a part of, they included IBI, which were one-on-one sessions, and Teen Group, which involved other teens who had a similar disability to mine, doing various social activities. Now, why is this episode special to me? It's because not many people with autism or other intellectual disabilities can communicate well. I felt like I could be a voice for them there and share my experience with autism. It also makes me feel that autism isn't as much of a disability as many people surmise it to be. People with autism like myself, I feel, are some of the most special people on the face of the earth, who think differently and see more than what other people can't. While having autism can be tough for me at times, I'm honestly thankful that I have it in the first place. Because how would I see all sides in everything I know? That's where the title of this episode comes into play. The title comes from a belief of the indigenous people, as well as a quote from musician Stuart Duncan, that autism is not a disability, it's a different ability. I feel that makes a lot of sense with how I view myself and others with autism and other intellectual disabilities. not as people who should be targeted, but people who think apart from others in their own amazing way and doing the best they can. That's why episode 2 is among my 5 most favorite episodes that I've made so far. Number 2, episode 9, Hilarious Heights. I honestly had a laugh doing this episode, and I mean it literally. This episode was made on March 5th, 2022, and from the title of the episode, I talk about some of the funniest moments in my life that I've endured up to that point. By the way, there have been loads of hilarious moments since then. I'll be more than willing to share them in a future episode if you guys want. Anyways, the funny moments I shared in that episode were my farting spree in a hotel in Niagara Falls during a trip with my father and 2 sisters in 2014. Having several pairs of sunglasses fall apart during my trip to Punta Cana in 2018, also with my father and 2 sisters, and watching the Wario Saturday Night Live skit with my step-cousin. Out of those moments, the funniest, no doubt, has to be the sunglasses one. Why, you may ask? It's not because of them falling apart. It's the weird theories I came up with surrounding why they fell apart. I came up with 2 big theories, which included the hot weather and the residue from the sunscreen I applied on my face. Let me be honest, my father and 2 sisters were questioning me like crazy in a funny way about these theories. And the funniest part? I stayed serious the whole time. Like, I didn't let up one bit about these theories, which makes it even more hilarious. Even now, there is still debate about it from time to time, including 2 new theories I came up with, which involve the way I put my sunglasses on my face and my hat. Now, I'm usually one who likes to stay serious and maintain a calm demeanor. But over the last few years, I've become accustomed to have a few big laughs and joke around every once in a while. Heck, even I've recently began making puns. Speaking of which, I did make a skit in November of 2022 in regards to that. I'll link the video on the screen here. Overall, episode 9 was so much fun to make and a good way to let the giggles out. It definitely deserves to be among my 5 most favorite episodes of Angel Rise so far. Number 3, episode 16, A True Dear Friend. This episode I had a back and forth debate on doing, but then thought, it's too special not to do. This episode was made on June 8, 2022, which was also National Best Friend Day. Quite a coincidence, I must say, but I did it on that day on purpose. In that episode, I talked about my friendship with Kestrel, aka Oni Deji, which I now recognize means Demon Daisy in Japanese, and not Princess Daisy, as I originally thought. In the episode, I talked about how Kestrel and I came across each other, that being as our Rosalina OCs on Instagram on November 10th, 2020, how she inspired my creative work, most notably my comics and my OCs, our OC romances, our dedication to each other, and how we've changed each other's lives beyond our OCs and roleplaying. Like I mentioned quite a few times in previous episodes, the friendship I have with Kestrel has no doubt become the greatest friendship I've ever had in my life. Proof of this includes a drawing she made for my 20th birthday with a message stating how I was one who made them less afraid of male figures and the belief of God. The beginning of the Nickel Daisy Kestra Peach romance, us both having autism, our love for the Mario princesses, and the care and understanding we have for each other's feelings. Kestrel was no doubt someone I didn't anticipate on talking with much, because I wasn't too comfortable with talking with people online at the time. But boy, did that change in a heartbeat. And she changed my life forever. The idea for making this episode initially came 2 months before I made it. It was because I wanted to recognize it as a thank you message to Kestrel, and to share how special my friendship with them was to my other friends, since around the time I was making my return to social media. But then I decided against making it, thinking, maybe my friendship with Kestrel is too special to show. But as an alternate, I did make a note about my friendship with Kestrel, which I shared the day before our friendship was nearly destroyed by a podcast she and their boyfriend were manipulated into doing. But our friendship remained steadfast. Then I did a bit of research a couple weeks later, and realized there was a day called National Best Friend Day, which happened to land on June 8th. That's when I decided that on that day, there would be an episode in which I talked about my friendship with Kestrel. Plus, I did mention them in a previous episode in which I shared our OC romances for the first time. And like the old saying goes, the rest is history. It couldn't be more true than that. That episode was the beginning of my frequent mentions of Kestrel in my videos. I've shown my gratitude towards Kestrel in many ways. The note being one of them, and episode 16 of Angel Rise in a big way. And it's more than fitting that it's one of my favorite Angel Rise episodes of all time. Number 4, episode 20, Hear From Your Angel. This is another episode on here that I had debated on doing, but then I felt, why not give it a go? And it paid off. This episode was released on September 1st, 2022, and it was a big milestone episode, seeing it was the 20th episode of the series. It was also the final episode I made before I moved to my grandparents' place. But what a better way to make this milestone episode about than do a Q&A. This episode had questions from Kestrel, my mother, and Kestrel's boyfriend, who here are referred to as Rome. I know his real life name, but I thought I would call him that just for privacy reasons. Rome asked me 3 questions, which were how I found YouTube, my all-time favorite video game, and my biggest life influences. My answers are as follows. For question 1, I found YouTube through tornado videos I watched on various weather websites. For question 2, my all-time favorite video game is Donkey Kong 64. And for question 3, my biggest life influences are my mother and my phys ed teacher, Mr. Crosby. As for my mother, she also asked me 3 questions. She asked me which athlete has inspired me the most, what I felt about the changes in our lives between March and September 2022, and where I see myself in 5 years. My answers? For question 1, the athlete that's inspired me the most is my favorite NASCAR driver Joey Logano, who, as of this episode, is now a 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, having won his 2nd title in 2022. For question 2, the changes within that time frame were very good. My answers? For question 1, the athlete that's inspired me the most is my favorite NASCAR driver Joey Logano, who, as of this episode, is now a 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, having won his 2nd title in 2022. For question 2, The changes within that time frame were very good and had minimal stress on me. And for question 3, I see myself as an actor in 5 years. And finally from Kestrel, she asked me 2 questions. She asked if Nickel Daisy and Kestra Peach would have a child like Nicolina and Kestrelina did, and if I wanted to do an Angel Rise episode with my friends. Both of the answers were yes. For the first question, the child of Nickel Daisy and Kestra Peach ended up being a Peach OC by the name of Iris, whom I referenced back in the last episode. And for the second question, like I mentioned during the intro of this episode, the collab video will be coming sometime in the near future at the time I'm recording this. There were also a couple additional questions I came up with for myself and answered, but they will not be shared here. This was also the first time I did a premiere for an episode of Angel Rise, which I would do for episode 21 as well. As for why this episode is special to me, it's because I felt I would share my thanks to those who have viewed these videos and give them an opportunity to have their say in this podcast. And overall, recognize the welcoming environment I bring to the channel. Here on this channel, we're a family. And in the words from the Disney movie Lilo and Stitch, family means no one gets left behind. That's why episode 20 was so much of a joy to make, and one of my all-time favorite Angel Rise episodes. And finally, number 5, episode 25, Angelic Identity. Episode 25 was released on December 5th, 2022, and from what the thumbnail of the episode tells you, I talk about the development of the gender identity of my OCs. I did mention previous times prior to that episode that my OCs were male-female mixes and they were intersex, but their full identity was not truly realized until May 20th, 2022, nearly 7 months prior to the making of the episode. Based on that, this is an episode I actually never considered doing, as I already described how Nicolina and my other OCs worked, but not in full detail. That's when, sometime between September and November 2022, I considered dedicating a full episode to the identity of my OCs and the people they are attracted to. Then, about a week prior to making this episode, that's when I decided I was going to make it and give it full insight as to how my OCs identified and their romantic attractions. For those of you who don't know how my OCs identify, I'll share it with you all. They identify as bigender, intersex, and lesbian. A bigender person is someone who identifies as both male and female, which goes well with my original interpretation of my OCs being male-female mixes. An intersex person is someone who is born with sex characteristics that are not common with male or female body parts. In my OC's case, they have male genitalias instead of female ones. And a lesbian is a female who has romantic attachments specifically to other females, regardless of their sexual orientation. The term bigender I was introduced to on May 20th, 2022 by Kestrel, which, as stated before, perfectly fits with my original view of my OCs being male-female mixes. No questions asked. I love that my OCs identify the way they do because they represent who I am. While in real life, I am a straight man, and I'm attracted to women regardless of their sexual orientation, it perfectly translates to my OCs. So in turn, my OCs and I are basically the same person. Then again, they, along with Kestrel, make me realize that I've learned a lot about the LGBTQ community and understand it a lot more than I did in years past. With episode 25, I felt no shame in sharing how my OCs identified, and it definitely deserves the final place as one of my 5 favorite Angel Rise episodes I've made so far. And before this episode wraps up, here are some honorable mentions. I won't lie to you all, I've enjoyed making every single Angel Rise episode for you all so far, which did make it difficult for me to choose just 5 that I love the best. But it all worked out. And at the end of the day, they're all part of this amazing series, and are truly moments in heaven. That's going to do it for episode 29, everyone, as well as the first episode of 2023 and the 1-year anniversary special. An episode of my favorite Angel Rise episodes I've actually considered doing for a while, but I thought it would be more fitting to have it serve as the 1-year anniversary special. To think, this podcast has been around for a year now, and having made the amount of episodes I've had up to this point, it's honestly unforgettable. And I do have a question for you all. Do you have a favorite episode of Angel Rise? If so, please feel free to let me know. If you did enjoy this episode, definitely feel free to leave a like and share this with your loved ones. Spread the word about Angel Rise. For those who are new and would like to join this journey of mine, then please feel free to subscribe to join the blue and white Angel Brethren today. Click on the notification bell as well so that you are notified whenever I release new content. And check out my other videos too. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Angel Rise. I hope you all have a great day or night whenever you are watching this. And until we meet again, my name is Lord Nicolina. Be strong, stay positive, and God bless.